Good evening, good evening. Hi. This is Mike Sessions and Life Lessons from my house, from my room. And tonight I'm going to give my testimony. If you don't know what a testimony is, it's basically your story. And if you don't know what your story is, it's your experience, strength, and hope. So I'm just going to tell my story. And so Anthony, my co-host, my boy, he thought of he had this in his mind a long time ago, Mike Sessions and Life Lessons. And I'm just so honored to be a part of it. I'm blessed by it. You know what I mean? I'm blessed. We're one, me and him, and we're brothers and we're best friends and we're together in this. And so he gave his testimony 2 weeks ago. And then we have Alexis on last week and she gave her story. And now I'm just going to tell my story. And man, I'm excited. I'm really excited. So thank you, Del. I see you jumped on. Yeah, I finally jumped on, man. I don't even know, my phone is how long it's going to last, but we're just going to go, man. I'm just going to go. I'm going to pray really quick. Lord, I just thank you right now. Thank you for this opportunity, Lord. I thank you for this platform. Lord, I thank you that you spared my life. Lord, you spared my life, Lord. You have a better plan, a better design for me. And Lord, I just hope that, and I pray that I'm operating in it to the fullest, Lord. I pray that, Jesus, you would fill me with the words. Holy Spirit, you are alive. You are active. You are accessible. You are living and breathing inside of me. So I just take anything that might be in the way, and I get rid of it. I toss it to the side. I thank you that you're here with me and through me, and that we're together. I thank you for the people that will hear this. Lord, I pray that something I say would affect their hearts, their souls, Lord. That they would be able to identify with my story, Lord, and they would see the hope. They would see you in this story. Lord, that my story would just be pointing them to your grace and mercy and your tender loving kindness, Lord. I pray that as the story goes out, those who have ears, they would hear. And those that have eyes, they would see. In Jesus' name, amen. So I guess we'll just start in the beginning, man. I'm born in Philadelphia. My mom's from Philadelphia. My pops is from Philadelphia. My pops is 1 out of 3. My mom's got a big family. She had a lot of brothers and sisters. I think her father, my grandfather, he remarried a bunch of times, maybe 2 or 3 times. So she has different brothers and sisters, different, they have different moms or whatever. So her side is pretty big, My mom and my dad, under what I know, were not together. They were not together when it happened. And my mom was definitely thinking, I know this from her, thinking about having an abortion. To have a baby with somebody you're not even with at the time, it's got to be scary. You know what I mean? It's got to be scary. But something told her not to have a baby. Or to have the baby, I should say, to have me. You know what I mean? Something told her, and she followed that voice. So I was born in 1976 to my mom, and my mom and dad weren't together. My dad is, how do I say, very outgoing, very charismatic man at that time. Good athlete. Just really, 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 really outgoing, per se. My mom's outgoing too. My mom has anybody knows my mom, she has a really strong personality. And you can see where the apple is not far fall from the tree. So life was hard. Life is hard in the 70s. My mom's coming up. My mom, she dropped out of school when she was in 8th grade. She was abused, taken advantage of, lost brothers to the city, had brothers that were just stolen and never heard of ever again. She took care of her brothers and sisters when she dropped out at 8th grade. She's a hard-working person. She has a great heart for people. So she was taking care of them. She was taking care of me the best way she knew how. She was a dancer at the time. She's very beautiful. She had a lot of friends that were like models. And so she did what she needed to provide for me. There was about a time when I was around, I would say like around 4 or 5 years old. It was one Saturday night. My mom's at work with the girls. They get out of work. They go down to South Street. They're out having a few drinks. My mom goes to the car to put her purse away. It's like 2:30 in the morning on South Street. It gets bad at this time. You know what I mean? It's probably like 80 something, maybe 1980, 81, 82, right around there. And the streets are bad. There's a lot of crack cocaine out there. So she goes, she puts her purse back in the car. She comes back. Her two girlfriends are getting held up with a guy with a 22 little gun on a 10-speed. You know what I mean? He's holding them up. He's taking their purses. She sees it happening. She tries to stop it. She grabs the guy before he pulls off on his bike, grabs his arm. She turns around. He turns around with the gun, pops her right in the forehead. Bang, little deuce. The bullet, went in and bounced around in her head. It's supposed to kill her. It's a little bullet. It's supposed to bounce around in the head. It's supposed to make you go brain dead. She doesn't die. The next morning I wake up, I'm still with the babysitter at home. And then shortly after that, my father and my uncle show up. And they tell me that I'm going with them. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, yeah, no, I mean, you're my dad and you're my uncle. And I'm listening to you. I'm a little kid. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm going with you guys. So thank you for everybody's joining in. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I go live with my dad. My dad tells me my mom was shot, but she lived. And we were going to go see her. Go see her in the hospital. And that was kind of weird because they shaved her head, you know what I mean, to operate on her brain. And she had to learn how to do like certain functions like math. She had to learn some spelling again. There was like different parts of the brain that got hit that were affected. So she's learning how to do these things in the Philadelphia Community College. And I'm living with my dad. Now, my father and I and my grandmother, we all lived together in a trailer outside of Camden. Just a crappy place, you know what I mean? Just like nothing good. My dad works as a mason. He lays brick, you know what I mean? He does any type of concrete work. But he is an alcoholic to the fullest. You don't know these things as a kid. I don't know what an alcoholic is. I just know that my father loves to be at the bar. He loves to take me to the bar. He loves to sit me on his lap and we drive home from the bar and he's drunk, you know what I mean? Sometimes more than, way more than others. My grandmother can't stand it. He also has a problem with cocaine. Maybe like acid, different things like that. Whatever the drugs were at that time, pretty much. Mostly alcohol and cocaine are his drugs of choice. So I'm growing up in this home with my father. My mother's trying to get better, and it's chaotic. I remember not going to kindergarten enough, and first grade. I remember going into first grade and not knowing how to read. Not knowing like the letters right, not knowing how to pronounce things correctly, not wanting to read, not knowing how to read. So I didn't have enough schooling. So I'm in first grade and I'm just like shut down. You know what I mean? Like my home environment is chaotic. There's nothing good. We're poor too. So that doesn't work well either. When you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of nice things, and the kids are looking at you like, you're the stinky kid. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't take a shower enough. Nobody's telling you to brush your teeth. So I just feel alienated. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like not accepted by, my peers at that time, not being able to even read correctly. So they held me back in first grade. I barely went anyway. So I had to repeat that. But they were like, we're not holding you back. You got to go to school. So, I started trying to go to school, and the environment was just hell, man. It just was not. My father was sometimes happy when he was drunk in the correct way. Sometimes he was shitty. He never really, there wasn't really, there wasn't like physical abuse from him. There was no physical abuse. There was, though, emotional abuse, the up and down, my grandmother, she hates my guts, it felt like. I think she was just so frustrated with my father that she was just taking it out on me. And I definitely look like my mother, you know what I mean? I get my good looks and charm from my mom's. Good shout out to Mom Dukes. You did good, Mom. You made a good one. So yeah. So that it's just hard to behave. I remember, I learned how to like fend for myself early. I learned how to come home. There's a key under the mat, latchkey kid, open the door. I'm home by myself. Everybody's at work or whatever. And I learned how to cook. I learned how to, I learned how to ride my bike and go to my friend's house. I learned how to steal bikes because sometimes we don't have parts for our bike, or sometimes we don't have a bike. I learned how to I learned, it was so crazy, man. I just remember as a kid sometimes like it'd be late at night. It'd be like 2:30, 3 in the morning. And I'd be like, I don't think they're coming home. My dad and my grandma, I'm like, I don't think they're coming home. Where are they? What's going on? I'm home by myself. I've been home by myself since I was a kid. I keep seeing lights go by like the front of the trailer, and I'll go jump on the counter, like hop up on the counter and see if it was them. And I'd be like, dang it, man. I just remember like complete like disappointment and abandonment. I was like afraid. There were times in my mind I'd be like, you know what? I'm just going to have to get up and go to school. I'm going to have to go to sleep. I'm going to have to get up and go to school. I know how to go to school. I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like the electricity works. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was thinking about like getting boarders, like, maybe have people come in and pay for rent and this and that as a little kid. Cause I'm like, they're not coming home. They're just not coming home. So I remember those thoughts a lot. I remember seeing my father be violent. I remember him using violence as a tool to control people. I remember learning right away, like, sometimes you got to be violent. It actually makes people do what the fuck you need them to do. Excuse my language. But it was just how I was brought up. My mom started to get better. She started to come get me. And, she would have me in the summertime, and it would be really cool, man, to take me down to like Wildwood with my Aunt Colleen and her kids, and we spent like a couple weeks in Wildwood, and it'd be really cool. I remember like seeing the first Batman movie in the summertime with her, and chilling with my cousins and having fun, being a kid and riding your bike with no shoes on and those hard spikes on the pedals, and playing like wiffle ball and just doing different things like that. I do remember, I loved that. Like I loved people, like as a kid, I remember I just loved the fellowship of being around my cousins and different people and having fun. And I wanted that, like as a kid, you want that. And, but then I also remember, my mom sometimes in the summer, she was dealing cards at Harrah's Casino, for a job. She was trying to do the right thing, like, you know what I mean? And she would leave me sometimes with my aunt and my uncles, which were young, right? These was like my grandfather remarried to a woman, and these were his last 3 kids. And they were like, a couple years younger than me. They would watch me. And there were some things that happened at that time, some sexual abuse that occurred where my innocence was stolen. And, I don't hate that. Like, I don't hate my family. I don't hold any bitterness. I think most of it was not malicious at all. I think most of it was just like intrigue or like experimentation per se. And so there was some of that, but I lost something at that time. And for a long part of my life, I'm searching for that thing, that thing like perverts. You know what I mean? Where there was like this innocent little boy, and now something's occurred to him, and he sexually, and I just don't understand it. I really don't know, but it made it like a desire for it. It actually opened up something in me. And what fed it after that was going back home with my dad, the rest of the year, and pornography, magazines, always, like everywhere, under the bed, in the closet. He always had, those type of magazines were always around. Later on, it would transpire into VHS. I don't know if anybody remembers VHS tapes, but I'm old school. I'm an old guy. I'm an old dog that's learning new tricks. So yeah, there was, it transpired, and it just continued on, for most of my life. It's been a big part of my life. So you got that happening. You have, my mom, she had an encounter. She had an encounter with Jesus Christ. And, she started, going to church. She started being around people. She started ministering in Philadelphia. And it would be crazy. Like, she would take me, we'd be like on Market Street, Broad Street. We'd be on like South Philly. And like they'd be holding these big tracts. They had these big tracts with pictures and verses on them. And I would hold them sometimes. Like I would go and they would have like these like little community, like kind of like house gatherings. And I, she would take me there. And so she's doing that like on the weekends. Like that's my weekend with my mom. On the week, I'm with my father, stealing, lying, trying to get money, trying to stay afloat, hiding my father's needle so he could shoot cocaine, going to the bar with him, sitting on his lap, driving the car home, just being a part of that chaotic. And then on the weekends, my mom's like trying to get me back into like a regular, little boy life and what that looks like. So it was like really confusing to me, because a lot of parts of me were learning from my father. He's my father, and I know he loved me, man. I know, like, I hold nothing against my mom and my dad. I want you to know that, like, nothing, I have a greater understanding that, like, if a child needs $100 worth of love from his mom and his dad, right? And they need their best bet, if they had $100 of love, they didn't have that. They didn't have $100. They gave me what they had. If my father had $27 worth of love, he gave me $27 worth of love. If my mom had $57 worth of love, she gave me all $57 worth of love. I love that about them. They gave everything they had. They just might not have had much. You can only give away what you have. I had to learn that later on in life. So there's no resentment or bitterness towards my father or my mother or my grandmother. I remember being 10 years old and I took my first sip of alcohol, right? I remember like me and my boy, he was like, yo, let's drink. And I was like, hell yeah, let's drink. Seeing everybody else do it, it's about our time, right? We were smoking cigarettes, this and that. So it's like, I remember drinking and like not just having a drink, like, no, I wanted to have more than just a drink. I wanted to be like messed up. And I remember like that day, I was like going back and forth riding my bike, came home, and I remember like my grandmother said something. And I told her off. I was like, I used a bunch of words. I never really said anything ever ignorant to my grandmother. And at this time, I let out all this stuff that was inside of me. So the alcohol gave me a freedom that I didn't have yet. I've been like, I was a very shy kid, very shy. Nobody who knows me today would ever think of me as a shy. But from the abuse, the sexual abuse, and the upbringing, the chaotic behavior, man, I would be with my dad. I'd be attached to his leg. I'd be holding on to his leg. It was like 9 years old. I was still hanging on to his leg. You know what I mean? Like afraid to like, say anything, or especially in school. My God, I couldn't even make a friend to save my life. If I liked somebody, I couldn't even tell them, a girl, that I liked them. So I told my grandmother off, man. And my grandmother whooped my ass that day. I mean, like, she whooped me. Like, I never, like, she put like scratches on my face from her nails because I was like trying to fight her to get away. And she like Like she seen it like afterwards. Like she was like, like she was like being nice and trying to like, you know, like patch me up because she knew my pops was going to come home and be pissed off. You know what I mean? He was going to be super pissed off. So, and that's what happened, you know. But something changed in me that day. Like I found like, oh man, there's a freedom here that I don't have. There's something in alcohol. And then, you know, you start drinking, smoking cigarettes leads to like, you know, smoking weed. You know, sex is coming. You know, I lost my virginity when I was 13. I mean, the other thing happened, but, you know, I don't really count that as a willingness. You know, I participated, started having sex with different girls at 13. And, I don't know. It was crazy. I was always like masturbating, pornography, so many like perverted things. Like I started like trying different things, and it was getting bad. And here's the thing: when it started to get bad, an event happened with my father. Right? There was one night I came home and my father was just acting crazy, like crazy, right? Actually, he came over to my friend's house. It was a Saturday night. I was supposed to sleep over a friend's house. He shows up out of his mind high, like literally like losing it, right? So I tell my friend, I got to go home with my dad. So my bike's at my friend's house. I rode my bike over there. So we go back to the trailer, right? We go back to the trailer. My uncle is taking my grandmother. There's like boards on windows, like nailing stuff. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I start cleaning up stuff. My uncle's going to take my grandmother because my father doesn't know how to act. Finally, he starts to calm down. I don't know if he did something, you know, Quaalude or whatever. It starts to like come down a little bit. So boom, I'm like, all right, bet. We're going to calm down. I start cleaning up. Grandma leaves with my Uncle Eddie. I'm like, I remember it was Saturday night because we were laying on the couches watching Saturday Night Live. That's the last thing I remember. I wake up to a smoke alarm. I'm like, what the hell? It's like, there's like all these lights on in the house. I'm like, I fell asleep. It was dark. Wake up, there's lights on, the fire alarm's going. I'm like, what the? You know what I mean? And I hear my father in his room coughing. You know, it's like maybe like 2 rooms in a trailer. You know what I mean? So I go to open up his door. Finally, I start to see there's like some smoke in the air. And I try to open up the door and I can't get the door open. I remember putting my back towards the wall and trying to use my legs to open the door. And I couldn't even budge it. I'm like, what the hell? But I hear him coughing and I'm starting to notice the smoke is getting bad. So I'm like, oh snap. I gotta get to the police. There's a fire. You know what I mean? Like, oh, snap. That's why the fire alarm's going off. There's smoke. Everything starts to register in my head. I'm like, oh, snap. So I throw on some jeans. I ain't got my bike. We ain't got no phone. We're poor. We don't even have a phone in the house. You know what I mean? I'm glad that we have electricity. So I run to the neighbor's house and I bang on the door. It's like 3:30 in the morning. You know what I mean? Maybe 4 in the morning. Nothing. So I just ran to 7-Eleven. There was a 7-Eleven that wasn't too far out of the trailer park. So I ran to the 7-Eleven and I was like, yo, you got to call the police. 116 Shenandoah Drive. I see the police go by. I see a fire truck. I start heading back. And by the time I get back, the fire people were there and everything. And some people like, that's him, that's the son. And they grabbed me and they're like, are you okay? And this and that. And they put me in an ambulance and they said I had bad smoke inhalation and I had to go to the hospital. And I went to the hospital. And it's funny because they're like, who's your next of kin? And I'm like, yo, you got to go get my Aunt Bunny. My aunt, I'm like, always go to my school from my aunt's house. I'm like, you got to go get her. I don't even know my Aunt Bunny's real name. Her name is Bunny because she's like tiny, like a little bunny. She got buck teeth. So, like, they call her Aunt Bunny. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of this. Better. So I'm like, you gotta call my Aunt Bunny. I don't even tell them I have a mom. My mom's in Philadelphia. My mom still lives in Philly, and we're in South Jersey pretty much. So they go and they get my aunt. My aunt comes back and she explains that my dad's dead. He died of smoke inhalation. So it was a really I was heartbroken. But it was so weird that I remember crying in the hospital. I do remember crying in the hospital, but I didn't cry at the viewing. You know what I mean? I had a little brother. My father had another kid. His name's Timothy, and this woman Liz. She was really nice. I loved Liz and I loved Timothy. And I remember Timmy at the wake was like trying to crawl into the casket. See my dad, he's trying to crawl in there. One of the few times that I've seen my mom cry. My mom's crying in the back. My dad's best friend is crying. My uncle's crying. My aunt's crying. His mom, my grandmother's crying. I can't drop a tear. I literally I couldn't make myself cry. I felt so like no feelings. I was like so numb to it for some reason. I remember my mom, she started living with my mom. My mom came and got me. And I remember it was about like 2 or 3 weeks later, and I was in the shower and I broke down. You know what I mean? Like, I guess the reality of everything. I'm a late processor. Anybody who knows me, really like knows me today, like when something happens, it's almost 24 hours later where I start to like feel the feelings of what happened yesterday. You know what I mean? Like when big events happen, I'm very calm and cool and collective. Like there's not a lot like of expression, but when I tell the story, I tell the story with mad expression, like very expressive words and hand gestures and this and that, the way I tell a story. But in the moment, I'm just calm, cool, and collective for some reason. It's like this late processing fee, not fee, but like processing time for some reason. It's really weird. So my life changed, big time. Now I got to go live with my mom, and I'm turning 12. I'm turning 12 years old, and I got to live with my mom, and things are not well. Things do not go well. I am so used to living a certain way, so used to doing me. I'm so used to like having a chaotic environment. My mom wants to bring me to church. You know, I'm supposed to go to like youth group and stuff. And I don't even like the kids. I don't even want to be there. I don't believe in God. I'm like, what God? What? I don't even understand God. I have no understanding of God. All I know is a bad, chaotic life. Oh, that's all I know. And I know how to get mine. And so I'm like sneaking out. My mom's working at night again. You know, she's doing the dancer thing. And so, you know, I'm like barely going to school. I'm getting in trouble at school, and she's trying to ground me. And I'm like, I'm not staying home. I remember like running away. I ran away for a couple weeks, and my mom had to come find me. I was like, I don't want to come home. I'm 13. I don't want to live at home anymore. I don't want to live by rules. I don't want to live by your rules. I'll figure this out. And she found me. She was crying. And that's when she decided to send me away. She's decided to send me away to school, which was the best thing I think she could ever do, because I needed a safe, structured environment to even start to grow in any way, any way possible. So I went to Milton Hershey School. It's in Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's in the middle of Pennsylvania. Couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't get away. I had to learn how to do chores. I had to learn how to make my bed. I had to learn how to do dishes, set a table. I had to learn how to live with other people. I became really, which was good for me because my personality started to come out. My extrovertedness, my people skills started to come about. And I started to really kind of blossom. I started to, everything started to work a little better for me. I was still one of the baddest kids there, though. I want to tell you that. I was still one of the baddest kids, but teachers understood me, man. Some teachers really, you could tell they spent time and they talked to me. And, it was really good. It was good to have people that cared. It showed me that people cared. It showed me my house father, there was a couple that would live with you. They cared, man. My house father really cared, especially when I was in high school. The way that he would talk to me, the way that he would take his time with me, even when I was losing my stuff. I would curse him out and this and that. He never let me get away with stuff, but he never treated me different. It was a really good it was a good learning experience for me. So when I graduated, it was time for me to do me again. I graduated high school, thank God for that, or I would never graduated. It's time to become a gangster. It was time to, get money. It was time to party. It was time to have no responsibilities, and I'm trying to do the responsible life at the same time to do the party life. And it's just not working out, I get locked up pretty shortly after that, start going to county jail, start getting charges, start meeting people, do harder drugs, do more drugs. My drug use through like high school was pretty like tame. But as soon as I got out, it was like, no holds bars. It was like, let's do this. Cocaine's introduced, tripping, acid, mushrooms, anything, you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't really have a line of what's good and what's not good. You know what I mean? So I want to retract really quick, because there was a time when I think I was like 13, 14, right? My mom took me to this church, and we were going to this church, and I remember in the youth group kind of part, I liked this girl, right? I used to stare at her all the time, and then she would stare at me, and then I would look away, and then I would start staring at her, and she would stare at me, and then she would look away. And it was just kind of cute, I guess. I don't know. But I remember not going to youth group one time when they called it out. And I remember some reason I stood up and I started singing the words, right? I started singing the words. It was like a worship song. And I started singing the words, and something happened. Something in me. I felt something that I've never felt to that point in my life. Never. And it was joy. There was some type of something inside of me was like excited and leaping for joy. And I didn't know what it was at that time, but I remember experiencing this experience. And I was like, what was that? And then bang, now I'm back to school, and then I'm graduated. Now I'm more drugs, more partying, more crimes. I tried to work construction with my uncle, building houses. Those dudes work too hard. To them, the hardest working dude is the manliest dude. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of that, bro. I don't want to work hard, man. I just want to party. I would like to get some money so we can party, So my life became really chaotic again. And I ended up going to prison in 1998. I went to the county. I did some time in the county. Then I went to prison, and I did like 5.5 years. And it was like my first, big bid. I remember coming home, and I was like 27 years old and like in shape. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do, heroin. I'm not going to do cocaine. I'm going to, I was on parole. I'm going to do good and this and that. And I think I was on parole for like 18 months, right? I'm on parole for like 18 months. And I never really like believed in God or anything. I didn't go to like church. I didn't really like pray. I never prayed. I didn't really get down with like any of that. I wasn't like into religion. I just thought everything was religion. I didn't have no understanding of love, mercy, truth, grace, any of these spiritual qualities of God. I just had no understanding of his love, basically. So I meet a girl, and she believes in God, and she wants me to go to church. She's a good girl, and this and that, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So we start dating, and she's a good girl, and then things aren't working out because I don't have any learning. I have no like abilities on how to even maintain a relationship. I don't even know me. I'm trying to like do the right thing at this time, but I don't know what the right thing is. Nobody's ever shown me or taught me. So I don't know really. Only what I know is how to survive. And I know how to survive, and I think I got surviving down well. One of the things that the Lord always tells me, one of the verses that he always gave me, like a life verse, is Proverbs 3:5, where it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. Acknowledge him or seek him in all you do, and he will show you which path to take, right? So that's my life verse, because I'm big on leaning on my understanding, how I understand life and how life goes. I use that very well, right? So I start using that again, right? And I meet another girl, and I like her because she has more of a party lifestyle, right? So I'm like, I'm just going to get with this girl because she knows how to party, you know what I mean? And she don't judge me, and not the other girl was judging. She just wanted something better for me that I couldn't even sustain if I was to get it. You know, you ever get something really good and you can't even sustain it? You know what I mean? Like you don't even know how to manage it. You know, if somebody gave me a whole lot of money, I'd have no idea what to do with it, right? Because I've never had a lot of money. You know, I have to learn how to do things with a little bit of money well so that I can gain more, right? So, I started having babies. I forgot about that part too. I started having babies before I got locked up. I had a son, probably hated me. Growing up, coming to try to visit me, hated visits. It was hot. Who wants to go see their dad in a visit hall? It just sucked. So now I started having more babies, right? I don't even know how to live, and I'm starting to have more babies. I think this is going to work, I was crazy. My brain, the way I was just completely insane, right? And God's trying to get in touch with me. He's got signs. They're blaring. I'm not paying no attention, man. I'm trying to live life to the fullest. I'm going back to prison soon. I start using again. Just everything, man. I learned how to be a barber. I did get my barber's license in 2003 when I came home. I don't know how that happened, but somehow, some way, I got my barber's license. I started cutting hair. That was something good. But then I get locked up. I go back to prison, and I'm cutting hair in prison, I just did not know how to live whatsoever. And I remember one of these times downstate, one of these last times, right? I'm down prison, and bro, I'm so tired of masturbating to pornography, porno books. I'm so tired of playing poker. I'm so tired of telling war stories. I'm so tired of watching a state movie. Like I'm literally like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like I literally don't know how to live, and I'm fed up with me, and I just like, I don't know what to do. So I know one of the things I sign up to go to like NA and AA, right? Sign up for this thing, man. And so I start going, right? I start going, maybe we'll look good on parole. I just want to get off the tier. I just don't want to do any of that dumb stuff anymore. And so I start going, and I don't really not really interested in what they're saying. I'm not really listening. But for some reason, something starts to make sense to me. Something starts to click in my head where I'm like, that sounds like the story he's telling sounds like my story a little bit. Or I can kind of identify with what he's saying. I can relate to that, So I'm like, So I come back and I start listening a little bit more. And sometimes they bring in people and they tell their story, and I'm like, wow, that's a crazy story, Start listening. And then I get an NA book, and I start reading the stories in the back of the NA book. And I love these stories. And I love these stories because they're stories about people that sound like they're like me, but their life has changed. And I'm like, I want my life to change. You know what I mean? I want my life to change. And then I find these other books that have to do with like science and God, and how science says that there's a God. And I'm reading about the eyeball, and I'm reading about the human condition in the body. I love this book. And I'm like, this book, it's so good. And I read this other book about positivity and attitude, and how your attitude determines your altitude, which means like how high are you going to be? Like you don't have to get high, but your attitude and your positivity, what's inside of you. And I'm just like, I'm reading these books and they're like, so doing something. I'm like, so I come home and I'm like, I don't want to go back to prison anymore, right? I don't want to. So I go to a meeting, man. I go to a meeting, a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, an NA meeting, and I raise my hand and I say, hey, I'm Paul, I'm an addict. I just came home from prison. You know, I'm looking for some help. I'm looking for, you know, whatever, you know, I don't know how to do this, but I'm looking for, you know, guidance, whatever that may be, this and that. And, bro, after the meeting, no one comes up to me. No one. I maybe was a little like unapproachable. I know I had this face on me. I did not smile, bro. If I show you my prison IDs, there's no smile on my face. I didn't smile for a long time. I was always worried. I was always like, you know, what's happened? I was always like looking around, like being careful, like somebody plotting against me, like what's good with that one? Like, you know what I mean? But I continue to go. I continue to go to NA. And I meet a girl. And she just came home from prison. And she's hot. And I'm like, oh, you're hot, right? I'm like, let's hang out. You know what I mean? And so the first time we go to hang out, we don't even have a car. Me or her don't have a car. And her mom comes and picks me up and takes me to a Wednesday night Bible study. Wednesday night Bible study. I'm like, my stomach is growling because I'm broke, poor. I got no job, no money. And I'm like, oh, my stomach's growling. I'm like, oh my God. So embarrassing, right? And, but, you know, listening, kinda listening. And certain things are starting to like have more play. You know, there's more of an open-mindedness, for me. And so I hear things. And then later on the week, my mom doesn't even have a TV. I'm staying with my mom. My mom radio, I'm hearing the same things I heard in Bible study, I'm hearing on her radio. And I'm like taking notice, right? I'm like, that's weird. That's weird, right? So I continue to go to NA, get a sponsor, start doing some work on myself, start seeing that there is something loving and caring out there, right? I start to see it, right? I start to see it a little bit more, and I'm like, wow, what is this? And it talks about, like in the third step, turning my life and my will over to care of this loving, caring source, right? God, they say, right? And I'm like, wow, God's loving and caring, and he wants to care for me. And I'm seeing like my will causes a whole lot of things to happen that are not good in life. So I'm like, oh man. So we're at church one time and they do like this, you know, like altar call type of thing. And you want to dedicate your life to Christ. And I'm like, well, Jesus seems like a pretty righteous dude. You know what I mean? And I'm understanding the story. Like I you know, I'm starting to read. I'm starting to see the story. Like, bro, he gave his life up for me. I'm the bad guy. I feel like I'm the dude on the cross. Like, bro, I'm a criminal. I've been locked up many times down prison. So I'm like, okay, if he gave his life for dudes like me, why shouldn't I dedicate my life to him? You know what I mean? Like he's the father's son, you know, that sacrificed himself for me. So that, you know, and not understanding all of it, you know, not really understanding it, but having some understanding, then I'm like, okay, I'm in. You know what I mean? This sounds better than anything I've ever experienced. You know, and then it actually like started to remind me of that time when I was 13, when I stood up and started saying those words. So when they said repeat these words, I was like, okay, I'll repeat these words. I'll follow along, you know. After I did that, my life fell apart. My life was not the life I think he designed for me. I don't know if it's a natural thing, but just things started to like come to the surface, right? I relapsed. I relapsed with the girl that I was with who led me to the church. And I had to go back and finish some time, right? I had to go back. And I remember my ISP worker came to me. I was on ISP, and he said, "Hey, we can get you into a program, and get you back on the street." And I was like, "Nah, I think I'm going to go down prison." It was like 7-8 months. I was like, I'd rather just finish these 7-8 months to come home and not be on paper, not have any paperwork or parole or anything, just kind of be done with it. And he was like, "For real?" He's like, "You don't want to come? You don't want to go?" I was like, "No, kind of wanted to go." So I go downstate, and I have this. Somebody gives me this Bible in Ocean County, and it's a recovery Bible. It's like green on the front. It's a recovery Bible. It has all these like inserts that have to deal with recovery and with the songs of David and the Proverbs and different parts of the Bible. And I remember that I had to go from Ocean County to Monmouth County. Monmouth County had to resentence me, and I had to go downstate from there. So I took this Bible with me from Ocean County to Monmouth County to downstate to home. And I remember one time I was downstate, and I was eating Bible. I was just eating it. I was just reading it. All I knew is I would read Bible and I'd pray in the morning. And I knew I would read I had this like daily devotion that I learned, like Psalms. If it was like the first day of the month, I would read Psalms 1. Then I would read Psalms 31. Then I would read Psalms 61. Then I would read Psalms 91. Then I would read Psalms 121. And then 151. There's not 150. There's only 150 Psalms. So I would add 30 to it. I would read like 5 Psalms a day, and then Proverbs. There's 31 Proverbs. So I would do that every morning, and then I would read my Bible later on. I would read the stories. I started reading Matthew, started reading Mark, started reading Luke, started reading John, right? And then I started reading the Acts and different things. And I just kind of followed along that way, right? I really didn't get too much into the Old Testament, except for Psalms, Proverbs, and Genesis a little bit. You know what I mean? But I was starting to read the New Testament like heavy, right? I started like learning about Jesus and like just kind of like, and like I would honestly there would be like, I would know people in the tier and like they'd be going through things, and I would like write a scripture and then write some other things with it, and I would send it to them, like jail mail, but it was like scripture with like words from God. Like I started to act out in some of the gifts that He gave me started to come up, right? So, and I was praying every morning, every night. I was praying. Now, I never felt nothing praying, right? Not yet. So I come home. It's 2013. No paperwork, no nothing. The girl that, I was with before, she dumped me, this and that. But she finds out I'm home. She gets in touch with me. Her life is chaotic. Her life is using this and that, heroin, cocaine, crack. She's going up to Asbury 2 or 3 times. She's tricking to get it. She's got this whole she's doing all these things. And I just want to rescue her from that. I just want her to be the person that she was before, the person who loved Jesus. Right? Like I spent like 7-8 months falling in love with Jesus, understanding, seeing his story, finding out who he was, reading about him. And now like I'm home, I want to experience him in a greater way. And she's ripping and running. So I'm like, yo, we got to get you off these things, mama. We got to get you better. Right? And she's willing. She wants to get better. She either wants to get better or she wants to die. You know what I mean? That's what she said. She goes, I really either want to die or I need to get better. So get her along in the clinic, get her into the methadone clinic. It takes like a couple weeks for her to make the transition fully. We're homeless. My mom's behavior was really like toxic. I couldn't stay at my mom's house. So I'm like homeless with like a drug addict, trying to get her clean, trying to get her to the clinic every day. I don't know how the hell we did it. We did it. We stayed at different places. My boy invites me down to Ocean County to a hotel. Boom. He has a hotel room. Come down to Ocean County and then find out he's using. We leave the room, get our own room from social services, And my journey kind of really starts to pick up from here. Find a church, find good people, man. Start learning how to hear from God, man. I started really learning. Like, I started to just be able to decipher what my thoughts were, what I would think, what the enemy would say to me, and how God would speak. I started to be able to distinguish, started having discernment in between them, started to be able to ask God questions, and I would hear answers. Like, the first thing that would come to my mind, I'd write it down, and I would say, okay, would Paul say this? I'm like, nah, Paul wouldn't say that. That's definitely not a Paul thought. I said, and then the enemy, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and he's an accuser. So he has these accusatory thoughts, you know what I mean? And I'd be like, is it one of those? And I'd be like, no, this sounds like this might be from God. So I started to really able to start to communicate with God. Really start to have like a conversation, start to get to know him. And, the church where I was at, they started to raise me up. Like, not raise me up, but like, I didn't know nothing. So I'm going to like NA meetings. I'm learning principles there and how to live. I'm going to the church. They're doing things for me. They're teaching me. There's like programs and classes, and I'm learning how to live finally. In 2013, I'm learning how to live. The woman who I was with, she gets clean. We get married. We have a baby. We get all her kids back. She had kids. I got stepkids. My life is like completely, like utterly changed, right? But there's still things that are happening. So I'm getting time clean. I'm not using drugs or alcohol, but I'm using other things. Like, I can't stop with pornography. I don't understand. Like, I'm hiding it. There's like things that like I'm at war with, but I can't, for some reason, like I get a little victories, like some W's, and then I lose again. And I'm in this like horrible cycle of like in battle with things. And what I didn't realize, I heard tonight, like the key to it is surrender, right? A lot of people like surrender, like, yeah, surrender. Like, when I tried to fight drugs, I had no W. It wasn't until I surrender to win, I give it to God and allow him to come into my situation and fight my battles. And not just fight my battles, that I get to live through him, through his victories. I can just walk in it. So I don't have to fight it. I need to surrender it. I need to give it over. So I'm like, wait, what? It doesn't like make sense, right? There was this process, and I didn't know this. You know what I mean? Like, I need to tell you, I was so religious. Like, I had this religious mind. Like, oh, I'm doing better. You need to do better. You need to do what I do. If you don't do what I do, I was just in this like try harder system. And when I failed at try hard system, at religious system, there was only a few things I could do. I could hide it, right? I could beat myself up. I could live in condemnation. Right? I did that. Or I continue into the crap. Because I'm going to need to continue in the crap, especially if I'm in condemnation. So I'm going to have to live in sin more because I'm beating myself up. So I need something to comfort me. And sin's a great comforter. I don't know if you know, like food, drugs, sex, pornography, money, material things. They give a solution. They give you a temporary fix, right? But they can't fill a void. See, a void has no barriers, no borders. It's like, you know what I mean? It's endless. So the only thing that can fill a void is something that's eternal, that has eternity wrapped in it. And that's God. So the more that I learn how to put God into this bottomless hole, this void, he just fills it right away. He fills me up. And so, but there's a process, right? Because sometimes I'll think that's part of the religious thing. I'll even make that religious, the filling up part. Oh, I got to fill up more. Oh, I got to fill up. And it isn't that. What I've learned, or what I'm learning, is that it's not about like filling up. It's actually about knowing that I'm full. It's actually more about knowing who I am, like who he's created me, that I'm a son. That when I realize that I'm a son from the Father, And I've always been a son. I just didn't know it, that my mind was an alien to all truth, right? Even in religious, it was like, try harder, do better, try harder, do better, do it like this. You're not doing it right. You must not believe. It's like, wait, what? No, I do believe. But I don't believe. I believed in him, but I didn't believe as him. He wants me not just to believe in him. Everybody believes in Jesus to some degree, but not everybody believes as him. And I think that's what's happening now. Like in my mind and in my heart, I'm starting to believe as him. And so if I believe as he is, then I start to do things as he does. And then just have less time to do other things. Less time to sin, less time to think outside of what I was created to. You know what I mean? Like, I come to find out that sin's just not the behavior, but it's actually the thought process. It's how I think. And here's something I wanted to share with you real quick. This is one of my favorites too. It's 2 Corinthians 10:2, right? It says that we are humans, thank God, but we don't wage war as humans do. We use God's mighty weapons, not worldly weapons, to knock down strongholds of human reasoning. So these godly weapons, they come to knock down strongholds of human reasoning and to destroy false arguments. We destroy every proud obstacle that keeps people from knowing God. Now, this word knowing God is more not just a head knowledge, but it's more of an intimate. It's like when a man knows his wife and they create a child. It's intimacy, right? So these things that they're like obstacles into knowing him in an intimate way. There's so many things that have gotten in my way of knowing God. There's so many things. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. But God has never stopped loving me. That's the part that he wins me over. Like I only have faith because he's faithful. He's faithful to me. He's never separated himself. He's never turned his back on me. He's there. As soon as I turn and cry out to him, he comes. And what I'm learning is that he wants me to grow from that place. He wants me to understand how great his love is for me, that he'll never turn his back on for me, that we've always been together, that we were together before he laid the foundations of earth. So before he created earth, he knew me in his mind. We were together. And then he's like, okay, it's time to go on mission. And I'm in heaven yeah, I'm all excited. Yeah, I'm going to do things for my dad. That's my pops. Watch how I go to earth to do this. Then I go to earth and everything just is messed up. What I find out is earth has another God. It's not my Father in heaven. It's a different God. It's Satan. Earth has Satan God. And Satan has all the systems and all the kingdoms on earth are his. He owns these things. Says it. He brought Jesus up to this mountain. He says, you see these kingdoms? They mine. You bow down, you can have them. Jesus is like, I don't need these. My Father's in heaven. He actually created the earth and heaven. He created everything. This was all for me. You don't even realize. I got a different kingdom that's going to come over and take over. The kingdom of heaven. So I'm like, that sounds good. I got to figure out what the kingdom of heaven looks like and how I could get it on the earth, because what I need is some heaven. I don't need earth. I've experienced a lot of earth. I've experienced a lot of the systems of the enemy. I've ran in those things, and they have left me high and dry. They have left me. Religion has left me, so freaking empty and hurt. I cheated on my wife, right? When she would reject me, in my love language is physical touch. I would go outside of the relationship. I needed something physical. I needed somebody to love me because I was so broken. I couldn't love myself. I had no ability, no understanding of his love. So I couldn't even love me. I was just working in religion, right? So religion left me high and dry, not knowing and understanding and experiencing God's love. Here I am looking for it in the wrong places with people, right? So I did all these things. And then And then, she left me. And I was broken, bro. I was so broken. And I was trying to fix it. And I was trying to manipulate God to fix it. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to get into my heart. He wanted to love me. But, bro, I was so broken one time, man, that I laid on the floor, man, crying, sobbing to God, crying. And I laid on that floor for over a whole day. I remember it was like a Saturday. I came home from work and I just broke down. And Sunday came and I didn't get up. And I didn't get up until the next day. It was Monday morning, man. And I remember laying on that floor in the same place, crying out to God, saying, man, can you just take me? Like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm too chicken shit to take my own life. Can you please just come get me? Can you take me out of this? I don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. I literally laid on the floor saying that over and over again. And I fell asleep at times. And I woke up and I said it again. And I said it again. And I said it again. And I wished death. And I wanted death. He didn't come get me. He told me to get up. He said, you got to get up. I can't do it for you. You got to get up. And I got up. And I got something to eat. And I went down to the water. And I looked at the water. And it looked different. And I said to God, I said, I want to live. I don't want to die. I want to find a way to live. I want to be able to love myself. I want to be able to love other people. I want to be able to be something that I've never been able to be. And I really think like a big change happened, like a real experience. And I think like a lot of times as men, sometimes I got to go into this like wilderness, man, and I got to be real. And I got to have a real life experience with him. And it can't be fake. Can't be like, sometimes it can't be with everybody. I know like Moses had experience with him in the wilderness, and he wooed some people in the wilderness, and Jesus went in the wilderness and he had experiences. You know what I mean? And the devil tried to tempt him, but he had the Holy Spirit, man. And man, this recently I've celebrated 7 years clean and serene. I have no mood, mind altering substances in my body. I don't have a desire to get high. God's told me, man, that's not for you. I remember hearing his words inside of me echo say, that's not for you. Son, that's not for you. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't really want it. I want to have fun in life. A couple things that I really like that are my heart desire. Number one is people. I love people, and I want to see people set free. I want to see people experience the love of God. I want to see people walk with God. I want to be able to put people's hand back into the Father's hand, reconcile them, not count their sins against them, but lay their hands back into the Father's hands. I want to see people know Jesus, like the man Jesus, and trust him. I want to see the kingdom of heaven come down. I want to take everything that's my inheritance in heaven and bring it to earth. I want earth to be a better place. I want to leave earth a better place. I want to leave people, when I encounter them, better than when I first met them. And I want to have fun. I really like to have fun. I really like to enjoy life. I read this thing. There's this book that I love. It's called The Language of Letting Go. They use 12-step principles to get rid of like codependency and different things like that. And there's this one thing that the woman writes. She says the secret to life is that you embrace it. You embrace the problems. You embrace the goods. You embrace that, and you enjoy it. You enjoy the good. You enjoy even the bad sometimes. But you embrace all those things to enjoy the magnificent, the awesomeness of life. And I find that there's so many awesome things. There's so many amazing people. God has given me eyes to see things that I've never seen before, to see people for how they were created, what they were created for. It's been a journey. Like, there's no, it's not like I don't want to say like it's a process, but it is sort of a process, like a process of getting to know him. But the process is maturity. It's like growing up from a kid. It's like, you start as a baby and you learn how to crawl. Then you learn how to walk. Then you learn how to run. Then you learn how to ride a bike. Then you learn how to fly a kite. Then you learn how to drive a car, So there's a process, but it's all maturity in getting to know him. And the more that I see him clearly, the more I see me clearly, because I'm created as him. And this process, that seeing each other has really helped me, I think, grow. Am I perfect? No, man. I do things sometimes that I do not like still, and I need to surrender that. There's things that I do and then I beat myself up and I'm like, oh, and I get into a bad place. We call this going to Bubby Park. Well, I'll feel sorry about myself. But feeling sorry about myself has never created change. Now, I read this quote, and I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it, and I love it so much. And the quote says, I never change. I just really find out who I am. I find out like a deeper level of finding out who I am. That I never don't really change. I just find more of me. I love that. Because I'm always big on how do you change? How do you change? But I think nowadays it's not about changing. It's actually just becoming who you were created to be. Who I was created to be. God's given me really good people in my life too. I have a lot of really great friends, loved ones. I have children. My oldest son is 26. He turned into be a great man. He loves to have a relationship with me. He reaches out. My daughter just turned 18. She's an amazing young woman. She's doing really great things. She's a hard worker, smart, intelligent, so stinking beautiful. It's mind blowing. I got to get a shotgun somehow because I don't know. I got to scare boys and men away from her. My 16-year-old, he's a lot like me, man. Really easygoing, great smile, man. You could just tell he's nothing really gets him off keel. He's a great young man. And my 10-year-old Zion, he's my dog, man. He's my guy, man. I've gotten to spend the most time with him. I love that boy. He's a little sensitive. He's sensitive. He's smart. He's really intelligent. He's learned how to read. He's learned things, and he's highly opinionated. I love that about him. He's wise, and I really love my kids, man. And my friend Anthony, who I'm a part of on Mike Sessions and Life Lessons, man, he's an amazing person, man. He's been my friend since I've been out here, since 2013. He's my brother. He's my best friend. It would be I can't see doing life without him. And his family's amazing. His wife Natasha and all his children. He's got 4 kids too, and I just love being a part of his life. Shout out to him. This will be on the platform. This will be on the YouTube. It'll be on the YouTube channel. It will be on the Spotify channel. And thank you for anybody who joined in this live. Thank you for listening to me. I know I ramble a lot. I know a lot of it was about my history, and maybe I didn't get into everything, but just know, bro, I was broken, man. I grew up so stinking bad that I knew nothing else but bad things, but a horrible, shitty life. And somewhere in it, through Narcotics Anonymous, through God, through Jesus, I'm learning how to live again. And I'm 40 I'm 48. I had to think about that for a second because, you know, the beard says I'm 48, but I say I'm younger at heart. You know what I mean? I don't even want to count birthdays anymore. But I'm learning how to live every single day. I really am trying to learn how to be what God's created me to be, the human, you know what I mean? He's designed me to be, the son that he's made me to be, more and more every day, I think. You know, I don't really have anything else to say. That I appreciate people. I love you guys. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. Have a great night. Peace. I don't know what to push from here. I don't even know how to get off this. Yeah, I don't know how to get off. What do I push? Oh, man. I'll figure it out. I think I just pushed this X.